God comforts us in our troubles so that we can comfort others when they are troubled. We will be able to give them the same comfort God has given us. We ask that you lift up their loved ones, the Collins family, during this difficult time. And now let us pause for a moment of silence. Thank you. I would also like to extend my deep appreciation to a multitude of law enforcement agencies who assisted in the search and eventual capture of this escapee. The Leon and Atascosa County Sheriff's Departments, the Office of Inspector General, DPS, Texas Rangers, and the U.S. Marshals Service. Thank you for all that you do. I will now take a moment to remember an officer in gray who succumbed to coronavirus, Jade Drennan. If you ever met Jade Drennan, you were instantly drawn to her infectious smile. Indeed, that's a good picture of it. And her love of life. It was what endeared her to so many of her co-workers at the Jordan unit in Pampa. Jade was born on Thanksgiving Day in 1982 in Amarillo and lived her entire life in the Texas Panhandle. She grew up in Borger and graduated from her high school there in 2001. She then attended Lubbock Christian University, where she received her Bachelor of Arts in Criminal Justice in December 2005. Jade began her career with the Texas Department of Criminal Justice in May 2020 as a correctional officer at the Jordan Unit. The staff at the Jordan Unit noted that Jade was extremely thoughtful and had a very giving heart. One of her favorite pastimes was telling stories about her 11-year-old daughter, Jalen. Jade has been married to her husband, Jeremy, since June 2009. Her favorite color is pink, and she loved any jewelry with turquoise in it. She was also a member of Grace Fellowship Church. Jade had been hospitalized since January of this year, battling this terrible virus. Jade Drennan, age 39, died from the coronavirus on May 19th, 2022. I ask that you pray for her family and those families who have had inmates succumb to this terrible virus. And now it is that time in the meeting when I get to highlight some of the hardworking men and women in TBCJ who make this organization outstanding. These folks all work here in South Texas. Indeed, this is a big reason that I moved the board meetings around the state, because I want to highlight the excellent staff that we have all over the state. It's not just folks in Austin or Huntsville. We have great people all over the great state of Texas. And so these are people from the South Texas area that you can call on to get things done and get them done well. First outstanding employee, Renee Gonzalez, Captain, Region 4 Training. Captain Renee Gonzalez exemplifies what it truly means to be a corrections professional. He not only demonstrates the core values, but he lives them. The agency's mission is not just a statement he can recite, but it is a creed that he wholly embraces. Born and raised here in Texas, Captain Gonzalez was hired as a correctional officer in October 1997. In 2003, he left the agency to care for a sick relative and was rehired in November 2004. He worked in various agency security positions before being promoted into training in January 2015 as a sergeant at the Edmundo Morales Training Academy in Beeville. In August 2015, he was recognized as the Regional Trainer of the quarter, and he quickly promoted to the Region 4 Pre-Service Training Academy's Range Lieutenant in September 2016. In September 2018, he was promoted to the rank of captain at the Region 4 Pre-Service Training Academy. David Yebra, director of the Training and Leader Development Division, said, Captain Gonzalez's passion for preparing new COs, along with his guidance and leadership, has created an environment of excitement for the staff at the Region 4 Academy. He added that the camaraderie and enthusiasm are contagious, and correctional staff are sent to their units with a sense of purpose and determination. Captain Gonzalez has also been instrumental in the progression of the performance-oriented training delivery method. This training style provides hands-on experiences that will enhance the correctional employees' capabilities to learn the necessary skills and knowledge to ensure success in the field of corrections. Captain Gonzalez said, when Mr. Yebra challenged me to deliver new relevant content to the training of future correctional officers, I began making videos that would speak to our staff and help facilitate the performance-based approach to training. When not at work, Captain Gonzalez enjoys spending time with his wife of 15 years, Nikel, and their sons Nathan and Nevan, and his daughter Nashlyn. He roots for the Dallas Cowboys during football season. Whether he is in the classroom or leading behind the scenes, Captain Gonzalez is an invaluable employee to the Training and Leader Development Division, and it is our privilege to recognize him as an outstanding employee of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. So come on up, Captain Gonzalez. Our next outstanding employee, Ramon Vela, Chaplain, the Lopez Unit. A career in law enforcement appeared to be Ramon Vela's calling, but a misdelivered magazine led him to serving in the chaplaincy over a decade ago. Ramon was raised in the Rio Grande Valley, and in the early 80s, he became a dispatcher, jailer, and deputy sheriff in Willacy County. He then moved to the Mission Police Department, where he became a parole officer and detective. He was also a volunteer firefighter. In 1984, he took another patrol officer position with the city of Harlingen and became a detective. He quickly promoted up the ranks from sergeant to lieutenant and then captain of the Criminal Investigation Division and Patrol in 2011. It was about this time that his life took a quick turn. He was shown a property in Harlingen where an abandoned church building was located. A friend said it was in need of a congregation and someone to lead it, and he was confident that Ramon was the one for the job. But Ramon did not feel that was where he needed to be, at least at that moment. A few weeks later, he reported to his job at the Harlingen Police Department. One of his co-workers had put a religious-based magazine on his desk that had been incorrectly delivered to the department. When he looked at the shipping label, it was the address where the abandoned church building was located. He saw it as a sign and soon began his work in the ministry as the founder and pastor of the Breathe Life Christian Church in Harlingen. Ramon had done volunteer work within TBCJ from 2005 to 2018, as well as at the Cameron County Jail and numerous other jails and prisons in South Texas. He soon began his role as the chaplain at the Lopez unit. Ramon says the challenge of turning inmates' lives around so that they can return to the free world as productive citizens is what keeps him motivated. Away from the Lopez unit, Chaplain Vela enjoys spending time with his family, which includes his wife Alma, his 2 adult daughters and 2 adult sons, and a teenage son. He also has 8 grandchildren. Chaplain Vela is a valued member of the agency, and it is our privilege to recognize him as an outstanding employee of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. Chaplain Vela, congratulations.
Smile, Mr. Chairman.
There it is.
1, 2, 3.
Our next outstanding employee is Paul Torres. An early interest in chemistry is what drew Paul Torres into the line of work that he currently holds as the maintenance supervisor at the Segovia unit. A self-described geek who enjoyed working with chemicals as a youngster, he originally wanted to be an environmental engineer. Paul began his career with the city of Edinburgh as a wastewater plant operator, eventually promoting up to plant superintendent after 16 years. Then he heard about an opening with the Texas Department of Criminal Justice in Edinburgh at the Segovia unit. He began working for the agency in November 2006 as a maintenance officer administrator. He held that position until September 2017, when he was promoted to Program Supervisor 4, Unit Maintenance Supervisor at the Segovia unit. It is a position that he still holds, but he's also filling in as the maintenance supervisor for the Lopez unit while that position is vacant. Paul said, "I have excellent people working for me at both units, but we face our challenges due to some staffing shortages." He supervises 5 employees at the Segovia unit and 6 employees at the Lopez unit. He is a former Marine who was honorably medically discharged due to an injury he sustained during training. He has an associate's degree in engineering from South Texas College in McAllen. Paul has been married to his wife Priscilla for 34 years, and they have 3 sons, Paul, Peter, and Perry, and 2 grandsons, 5-year-old Noah and 1-year-old Parker. When he is not at work, Paul enjoys spending time with his family or golfing. He is also a Houston Astros fan, and he coached for his son's Little League games for almost 15 years. Paul's knowledge and expertise as a maintenance supervisor is beyond measure, and we are proud to recognize him as an outstanding employee of the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. Congratulations, Paul, and come on up. Our next outstanding employee, Roberto Rivas. As any sports coach will tell you, when your team does great, you praise them publicly, but when they fail, you accept the responsibility. That's the way Major Roberto Rivas, food service major at the Lopez unit, manages his staff. Born and raised in San Benito, Major Rivas attended South Texas College in Weslaco, where he earned an associate's degree in criminal justice. He was an area supervisor for the Stripes Laredo Taco Company in South Texas for 12 years before coming to work at TBCJ as a correctional officer in April 2009 at the Garza East unit. He soon applied for the food service manager's opening at the Segovia unit because he felt his knowledge of the food service industry would be beneficial to the agency. He held that post until he was promoted to food service captain at the Lopez unit in September 2017. Then in September 2021, he was promoted to food service major. The major says the most interesting part of his job is training and developing his staff. He says he tries to bring out the best in them every day so that they can show their full potential. He says his team at the Lopez unit is valuable to him, and he relies on goodwill to keep things running smoothly. He will always say, "We did it," whenever they are successful, and he gives credit where it is due for a job well done. But when something does not go well, he takes the criticism personally and works with his team to improve. When Major Rivas is not at work, he enjoys gardening, watching the Dallas Cowboys on TV, and spending quality time with his family. He has been married for 28 years to his high school sweetheart, Ada, and they have 3 children, Enrique, Robert, and Abigail, as well as 2 grandchildren, Evelina and Enrique Jr. Congratulations to you, Major Rivas, and let me say that you had one of the cleanest kitchens I've ever seen on inspection. And so congratulations to your kitchen, too. Come on up to the see ya. Outstanding kitchen, Major. Our next outstanding employee, Felix Tirado, a family man, a man of honor and integrity. That's what you will find in Correctional Officer Felix Tirado. When he and his wife, Daniela, married, he knew the long hours working at his dad's construction company needed to come to an end. He wanted a secure career that would take care of him and his growing family. For that opportunity, Felix turned to TBCJ. Tirado began his career as a correctional officer at the Segovia unit in 2018, the same year he and Daniela married. On the unit, he has excelled, helping the Segovia unit succeed in transforming from a pre-release facility to one that houses confinees. Felix played a key role in assisting the administration in reporting and tracking data and made a morale impact on the facility by leading by example. Segovia Unit Assistant Warden Frank Aguilar is reminded of a quote by Life Church Senior Pastor Craig Gruschel. People would rather follow a leader with a heart than a leader with a title. Warden Aguilar says, "When I read this quote, Felix's name comes to mind. As a correctional officer, Felix showed how you can lead without having a title while assigned to the Segovia unit, and continues to lead as a newly promoted Sergeant of Correctional Officers at the Lopez unit. Felix enjoys spending his free time fishing with his 3-year-old daughter, Camelia, and the family just welcomed a new baby boy, Elias, who was born on June 8th. Oh, and is that the cutest picture right there? What a privilege it is for me to recognize and congratulate him. If you could come on up, Felix. Again, what a privilege to recognize Roberto, Paul, Ramon, Renee, and Felix. Please join me in thanking all of them for their hard work and dedication to the agency. And that concludes my report. The next item on the agenda is a report from the presiding officer for the Judicial Advisory Council, Judge Rebecca Palomo. Thank you for joining us today. And it's good to see you in person.
Good morning.
Proceed.
Yes, good morning, Chairman O'Daniel, members of this board, and Director Collier. Good morning to all of you. I'm here to present to you on behalf of the Judicial Advisory Council. Chairwoman Judge Rose Reyna sends her regards. I'm here to present to you on 3 topics. The first one is one-time funding. At the last board meeting, it was reported to you that there was an excess refund amount of approximately $7.3 million. And as worked through the Fiscal Issues Committee was distributed via the basic supervision funding in the amount of $6 million, and $1.3 million was distributed as one-time funding needs. Since that time, a statutorily required quarterly diversion program and TAP review was completed that resulted in the deobligation of approximately $1 million. This amount was put through the one-time funding process and recently redistributed to the Community Supervision and Corrections Department across the state of Texas for one-time funding needs such as treatment services and information technology. The second item is probation exceptional item request. Mr. Collier's legislative committee has worked to identify funding needs in the adult probation system. Overall, the potential categories include a 10% pay increase for all CSCD staff across Texas, as well as an infusion of funds for other operational needs. The committee continues to work with TBCJ to finalize the EIR for inclusion in the agency's 2024-2025 LAR and EIR. The third and last item is overview of the Battering Intervention and Prevention Program, BIP. At the last JAC meeting, there was a presentation which provided an overview of services provided by BIPs, as well as a historical information regarding statute, policy, and BIP guidelines. In addition, the JAC was navigated through the accreditation process to include an overview of the initial desk audit, full audit, and the renewal process. The presentation ended with a brief overview of the impact of COVID-19 on BIPs and how they are moving forward with services now. That concludes my presentation. I remain for any questions.
Thank you, Judge Palomo.
Yes.
Are there any questions from the board?
Did you hear about the review of BIP? It's ordered day after day after day with so many defendants, and it's an important part of our correctional process. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, Judge Francis. And hearing no more, thank you for your report, Judge Palomo. And I look forward to seeing you in August in Galveston. Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is the internal audit status report for fiscal years 2021-2022. Chris Cerrito, Director of Internal Audit, I see you're at the podium. Please proceed.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members, Mr. Collier. Before I begin, each year, the month of May is designated as International Internal Audit Awareness Month, And again, this year, Governor Abbott issued a proclamation in recognition of the profession. I'd like to take just one moment to thank my staff and to thank the board for all of your support. My staff, as many of you know, and they will tell you, I hold them to excruciatingly high standards. And each day they step up, and I want to publicly let them all know I appreciate that. So with that, I will begin my report. I have several changes to your status report in your packet. I will begin with Project 2104. That project has now moved to report writing. Project 2204 has been issued as a draft report. Project 2206 has moved to report writing. And on the next page, Project 2215-03 has been issued to the board as a final memo. And with that, I will pause for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Cerrito. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
In honor of the May International Audit Month, I just would like to say we appreciate all you do and your staff does to protect the public money and improve our efficiency.
Thank you.
Very well said. Thank you, Mr. Cerrito. The next item on the agenda is the discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding purchases and contracts over $1 million. Members of the board, I don't ordinarily vote unless it is to break a tie. However, my firm represents entities included in the purchases and contracts over $1 million. Therefore, I will not be taking action today on the purchases and contracts over $1 million. Ron Steffa, the Chief Financial Officer, will be presenting. You may proceed.
Thank you and good morning, Chairman, board members, Mr. Collier. I have 34 items to present for your consideration. There, you can find them behind tab G. It's on page 23 of your packet. The first is an increase to a fiscal year 2021 contract for the case management and continuity care services at Chambers, Hardin, Jefferson, and Orange counties. Item number 2 is an increase to a fiscal year 22 contract for courier delivery services with Federal Express. Item number 3 is a 22 contract is an increase for cloth blend gray sheeting. It's used for the inmate sheeting and clothing. Item number 4 is an increase to the 22 contract for bulk fuel. We're also requesting to continue the 10% variance for any price fluctuations or usage that we'll have for the remainder of the year. Item number 5 is an increase to a 22 contract for pork trim that is used at the Michael Packing Plant. We're also seeking to continue the 10% variance on that item as well. Item number 6 is an increase to a 22 contract for cellular, telephone, and equipment services with AT&T. Item number 7 is an increase to a 22 contract for the food service delivery at the Keegan's State Jail in Houston, and it is with Aramark. Item number 8 is a 22 contract for the purchase of pickup trucks for use in the agency. Item number 9 is an increase to an FY 22-23 contract for the operation and management of the Willacy State Jail. Item number 10 is a FY fiscal year 23 contract for electronic monitoring. It's radio frequency and GPS electronic monitoring that is used for parolees. Item number 11 is a renewal to a fiscal year 23 contract for John Deere tractor parts. Item number 12 is a fiscal year 23 contract for isolated soy protein that's used in the manufacture of our meat products. Item number 13 is a fiscal year 23 contract for the purchase of pork trim. On the next page, item number 14 is a fiscal year 23 contract for beef trim. It's used at the packing plant to produce meat products, and we are there seeking the 10% variance for any future price fluctuations or usage needs that we may have. Item number 15 is a FY 23 contract for cans and lids used at the Terrell packing plant, or canning plant, I should say. Item number 16 is a FY23 contract for cattle feed. Item 17 is a FY23 contract for soybean meal. 18 is an FY23 contract for fertilizers used for field and vegetable crops throughout the agency. Item number 19 is a FY23 purchase of metal aluminum coils that's used in the manufacturing of our license plates. Number 20 is also used in the manufacturing of the license plates. It'll be reflective specialty sheeting for FY23. Item number 21 is a 23 contract for corrugated cardboard sheets that we actually use in the Polensky Box Factory to manufacture boxes. Item number 22 is a 23 contract for the cellular and telephone services with AT&T Mobility. Item number 23 is a FY23 contract for food items that we will serve throughout the system. We are requesting a 10% variance there for any cost and usage fluctuations. Item number 24 is a renewal to a 23 contract for modular panel systems, parts, and components that's used with our Texas Correctional Industries. Item number 25 is a 23 contract for the manufacturing of highway signs. It's prismatic reflective sheeting. On the next page, item 26 is a fiscal year 23 contract for aluminum sign blanks that's also used in the production of highway signs. Item number 27 and 28 are renewals for residential reentry services, 27 being in Beaumont, 28 in the Houston area, both with geo reentry. Item number 29 is a renewal to a fiscal year 23 contract for bulk fuel. And again, we're requesting the 10% variance for usage and price fluctuations. Item 30 is a FY23 contract for courier delivery services with FedEx. Item 31 is a 23 contract for the cloth blend gray sheeting. Item number 32 is for fiscal year 23 for the purchase of commissary items. And there you can see, for your information, are the categories broken out below. Item number 33 is an FY23 contract, but this actually will cover a 60-month lease. I'm sorry, this is for the lease of the tractors for 23. The next item is FY23, but it's a 60-month lease for printing equipment to be used at the hobby unit print facility. And that includes all of the items, and I'll pause for any questions.
I mean, is it safe to say that other than, a few of items here for, renewing the residential reentry center contracts or purchasing commissary for the next year or like leasing the tractors, that the vast majority of these increases are being driven by inflation?
Yes, sir.
And so we should expect to see this again in the meetings to come. So, I mean, this is just continuing to be an inflationary challenge for us.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask that the record reflect that I will be abstaining from consideration and voting on this item, as my firm has represented various entities or affiliates to these entities on the list submitted to the board for consideration and possible action.
Okay, so noted. And thank you, Mr. Steffa, for your.
One more question.
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Stefan, how many trucks do we get, pickup trucks do we get for 1.2 million, do you know?
Yeah, this purchase would give us 32 trucks. That would be an average of about $38,000 for a truck. It'd be F-150.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Steffa. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Texas Board of Criminal Justice approve the purchases and contracts over $1 million as presented.
I have a motion. Is there a second? A motion has been made. It has been seconded by Judge Francis. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Please let the record show Mr. Nichols and I abstain from voting on the purchases and contracts over $1 million. And thank you, Mr. Steffa. We will now move on To the next agenda item is a discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding proposed land transaction, request for an electrical line easement at the Huntsville unit, Walker County, Huntsville, Texas. Members of the board, I would like to state for the record, I don't ordinarily vote unless it is to break a tie. However, my firm represents Entergy Texas, Inc. Therefore, I will not be taking action today on the request for an electrical line easement at the Huntsville unit, Walker County, Huntsville, Texas. Mr. Billy Hirsch will be presenting today. If you are ready, please proceed.
Thank you and good morning, Chairman O'Daniel, Mr. Collier, members. As we discussed during the Business and Finance Operations Committee, we have one item on the agenda. Entergy Texas Incorporated is requesting an easement for construction at the Huntsville unit in Walker County, Texas, Walker County, Huntsville, Texas, to include an area of approximately 1.852 acres of land, being 80,673 square feet by 36 foot at its broadest, for construction of a new electrical line and a replacement of a few electrical poles. If you direct your attention to the screen, as pointed out and as are outlined in red, you can see where the easements are, and there's three different sections of this easement. Entergy Texas Incorporated has agreed to pay $73,269.36 for a term of 10 years. This is the initial establishment of this easement. I would also like to point out that this easement includes language requiring indemnification as a grantee's responsibility, the most favored nation clause, and general liability insurance coverage for a minimum of $3 million. We recommend that the Texas Board of Criminal Justice approve the request for the easement to Entergy Texas Incorporated. I'll stand available for any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hirsch. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
Mr. Chairman, may the record reflect that I will be abstaining from consideration and possible action on this item, as my firm has represented affiliates of Entergy.
Thank you, Mr. Nichols. Do I have a motion?
Yes, sir, I move that the board approve the electrical line easement as described by Mr. Hirsch in Walker County at the Huntsville unit.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion has been made. It has been seconded by Judge Johnson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Please let the record show that Mr. Nichols and I abstained from voting on the request for an electrical line easement at the Huntsville unit, Walker County, Huntsville, Texas. The next agenda item is the discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding Facilities Division construction project, request to refurbish and repair the water towers and groundwater storage tank at Chase Field, B County, Beeville, Texas. Members of the board, I would like to state for the record, I don't ordinarily vote unless it is to break a tie. However, my firm represents RPS Group, Inc. Therefore, I will not be taking action today on the request to refurbish and repair the water towers and groundwater storage tank at Chase Field, B County, Beeville, Texas. Facilities Director Cody Genzel will be presenting. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Collier, members, in your agenda package, you will see the job scope of the new project to refurbish and repair water towers number 1 and number 2 and the ground storage tank at the Chase Field unit located in Beeville, Texas. The Business and Finance Committee meeting, I briefed this new project and now asking for the board's approval for a total program cost of $8,538,800. I will pause for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Genzel. Are there any comments or questions from the board? Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Texas Board of Criminal Justice approve the request to refurbish and repair the water towers and groundwater storage tank at Chase Field, B County, Beeville, Texas, as presented.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion has been made. It has been seconded by Mr. Nichols. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Let the record show that I abstain from voting on this project. The next agenda item is the discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding Facilities Division construction projects, request to install air conditioning system for buildings B1, B2, B3, pods 1 through 9 at the Johnston unit, Wood County, Winsboro, Texas. Mr. Genzel, please continue.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In your agenda package, you will see the job scope of a new project to install air conditioning system, building B1, B2, B3, pods 1 through 9 for intake beds at the Johnston unit located in Winsboro, Texas. At the Business and Finance Committee meeting, I briefed this new project and am now asking for the board's approval for a total program cost of $1,390,300. I will pause for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Gensel. Are there any comments or questions from the board? Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I move that the Texas Board of Criminal Justice approve the request to install air conditioning system for buildings B1, B2, B3, and pods 1 through 9 at the Johnston unit, Wood County, Winsboro, Texas, as presented.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion has been made. It has been seconded by Ms. Perryman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The next agenda item is the discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding Facilities Division construction projects, request to replace the Region 3 training buildings at the Ramsey Unit, Brazoria County, Rose Sharon, Texas. Mr. Gensel, you may continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In your agenda package, you will see the job scope of a new project to replace Region 3 training buildings at the Ramsey unit located in Rocheron, Texas. The Business and Finance Committee meeting, I briefed this new project and am now asking for the board's approval for a total program cost of $10,698,500. I will pause for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Gensel. Are there any comments or questions from the board? Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I move that the Texas Board of Criminal Justice approve the request to replace the Region 3 training buildings at Ramsey Unit, Brazoria County, Rocheron, Texas, as presented.
I have a motion. Is there a second? A motion has been made. It has been seconded by Judge Francis. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. And thank you, Mr. Gensel.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is the discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding proposed revisions to Board Policy 01.07, Inspector General Policy Statement. General Counsel Ms. Kristen Warman will be presenting. You may begin.
Good morning, Chairman, Mr. Collier, and board members. Before you are proposed revisions to BP 01.07. These proposed revisions add language to include the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement rules so that Section 5B1 states that OIG staff shall be appointed, disciplined, or terminated by the Inspector General or his designee in accordance with TBCJ employment policies and TCOL rules. There was also language added to Section 5B4 to state that the TBCJ chairman shall designate a TBCJ official as the responding authority for Step 3 grievance decisions. And if the requested relief is outside the authority of the designated TBCJ official, that official will request final approval from the chairman. Grammatical and formatting changes were also proposed before you.
Thank you, Ms. Warman. Are there any comments or questions from the board? Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I move that the Texas Board of Criminal Justice approve the proposed revisions to Board Policy 01.07, Inspector General Policy Statement as presented.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion has been made. It has been seconded by Mr. De Ayala. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding proposed revisions to Board Policy 01.08, Independent Ombudsman Policy Statement. Ms. Warman, please continue.
Yes, before you are proposed revisions to BP 01.08 that add language to Section 5D, as in dog, to state that the TBCJ chairman shall designate a TBCJ official as a responding authority for Step 3 grievance decisions. If the requested relief is outside the authority of the designated TBCJ official, that official will request final approval from the chairman. Grammatical and formatting updates are also before you.
Thank you, Ms. Warman. Are there any comments or questions? At this time, I would like to point out that for public comments on issues within the jurisdiction of the board and posted on today's agenda, one registration card was received by board staff prior to the established deadline. During this comment period, speaker comments must remain pertinent to posted agenda topic. If I sense a deviation, I will interrupt and notify the speaker of such. Continued deviation will be considered disruptive comment. It is if an individual registered to speak is not present when first called upon, their name will be called once more following any other registered speakers. If he or she is not present at that point, he or she will forfeit their opportunity to speak. As noted earlier in this meeting, today's comment time is set at 3 minutes per individual. A red light on the timer in front of me will notify the presenter when their time has expired. Also, if I determine a presenter or spectator is being disruptive, they will be asked to immediately cease or leave the meeting and, if necessary, be escorted out. Our first and only presenter is Francis Vaughn. Is there Francis Vaughn? Come on up. It's good to see you here this morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Settle in. Let us know when you want us to start the timer. So.
Okay. All right. I believe I'm ready.
Okay, good. We'll get it started.
What the term independent, as far as the ombudsman, I just heard something about having TDCJ officials appointed to look at third-level grievances. So that kind of takes the independence out of it. Just as, this morning I heard a couple of you excuse yourselves from voting because of the potential conflict of interest and didn't want the appearance of that. So when a TDCJ official is involved, doesn't that take out the independent aspect of it? That's my concern. Because it's housed in the same building as TDCJ, isn't it? And their payroll is TDCJ. So that kind of takes away from the independent aspect of being an oversight portion.
I appreciate your comments. I would just say that before these changes were made, this concerns third-level grievances. So we're talking at the very end of the grievance process. And the way it was set up before is that basically the people that were in charge of each one of the divisions or direct reports, they essentially appealed the decision to themselves. And so this was put in place so that you wouldn't have that conflict where you yourself were judging your own grievance.
Right.
So that was the thinking behind the change that was made.
I see. It just doesn't have the real separation that I think people are looking for, That's my concern, because the inmates have a saying, get off the gas, That means, stop pulling my leg when it's, just for appearance sake.
A fair point, and I would also point out that it also covers the employee grievances under the ombudsman, because we don't want to have the head of the office being the final say on their own employees' grievances, if that makes sense.
Of course. Okay. Well,
but thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments or questions from the board? If not, thank you. Do I have a motion?
You want to say something?
Oh.
I did, Mr. Chairman and board members. Based on the comment, there may be an issue with interpretation. This is to appoint a TB as in boy CJ official, not a D as in dog, CJ official. So that is the change.
And fair point. Thank you for the clarification, Ms. Warman. Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Texas Board of Criminal Justice approve the proposed revisions to the board policy 01.08 independent ombudsman policy statement as presented.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion has been made. It has been seconded by Judge Francis. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding proposed revisions to Board Policy 02.09, Prison Rape Elimination Act Ombudsman Policy Statement. Ms. Warman, please continue.
Yes, sir. Before you today are proposed revisions to BP 02.09. These revisions include additional language that was added to Section 5D to state that the TBCJ chairman shall designate a TBCJ official as the responding authority for Step 3 grievance decisions, and if the requested relief is outside the authority of the designated TBCJ official, that official will request final approval from the chairman. Grammatical and formatting updates are also proposed.
Thank you, Ms. Warman, and thank you for your emphasis. Are there any questions? Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Texas Board of Criminal Justice approve the proposed revisions to Board Policy 02.09, Prison Rape Elimination Act Ombudsman Policy Statement as presented.
I have a motion. Is there a second? A motion has been made. It has been seconded by Dr. Burrow. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding proposed revisions to Board Policy 13.69, State Council for Offenders. Ms. Warman, please continue.
Yes, sir. Before you, the revisions to BP 13.69 include adding language to Section 3C to state that the TBCJ chairman shall designate a TBCJ official as the responding authority for Step 3 grievance decisions. If the requested relief is outside the authority of the designated TBCJ official, that official will request final approval from the chairman. Grammatical and formatting updates are also proposed.
Thank you, Ms. Warman. Are there any comments or questions? Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Yes, sir, I move that the Texas Board of Criminal Justice approve the revisions to Board Policy 1369, State Council for Offenders as presented.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion has been made. It has been seconded by Mr. Nichols. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding proposed revisions to Board Policy 14.02, Internal Audit Division Policy Statement. Ms. Warman, you may proceed.
Yes, sir. Before you, the revisions to BP 14.02 include adding language to Section 5D to state that the TBCJ chairman shall designate a TBCJ official as the responding authority for Step 3 grievance decisions. If the requested relief is outside the authority of the designated TBCJ official, that official will request final approval from the chairman. Grammatical and formatting updates are also proposed.
Thank you, Ms. Warman. Are there any comments or questions? Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we do. I move that the Texas Board of Criminal Justice approve the proposed revisions to Board Policy 14.02, Internal Audit Division Policy Statement as presented.
A motion has been made. Or I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion has been made. It has been seconded by Ms. Perryman. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding proposed revisions to Personnel Director PD-30 Employee Grievance Procedures. Ms. Warman, you may proceed.
Yes, sir. Before you, the revisions to PD 30 include revising the definitions of equal employment opportunity designated agency official, adding language to section 3, capital A, 1, lowercase c, to include a TBCJ official designated by the chairman as a step 3 responding authority for an EEO rule violation. Also adding language to section 3, capital A, 2, regarding the responding authority to state that if the requested relief is outside the authority of the designated TBCJ official, that official will request final approval from the chairman. There are also grammatic and formatting updates before you.
Thank you, Ms. Warman. Are there any comments or questions? Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Texas Board of Criminal Justice approve the proposed revisions to Personnel Directive PD-30 Employee Grievance Procedures as presented.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
The motion has been made. It has been seconded by Mr. Nichols. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding proposed revisions to Administrative Directive AD-04.80, Good Conduct Time. Ms. Vorman, you may proceed.
Yes, sir. The proposed revisions to AD 04.80 include revising the term offender to the term inmate throughout the policy, and additional grammatical and formatting updates are before you.
Thank you, Ms. Foreman. Are there any comments or questions? Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I move that the Texas Board of Criminal Justice approve the proposed revisions to Administrative Directive AD-04.80, Good Conduct Time as presented.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion has been made. It has been seconded by Mr. De Ayala. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is the discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding proposed revisions to Administrative Directive AD-04.81, Review Process for Promotion in Time Earning Class. Ms. Warman, please continue.
Yes, sir. The revisions before you to AD 04.81 include revising the term offender to the term inmate throughout the policy, and additional grammatical and formatting updates are before you.
Thank you, Ms. Warman. Are there any comments or questions? Thank you. And mercifully, you are finally at an end for this board meeting. Do I have a motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I move that the Texas Board of Criminal Justice approve the proposed revisions to Administrative Directive AD 01.81, Review Process for Promotion in Time Earning Class, as presented.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion has been made. It has been seconded by Ms. Perryman. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, Ms. Warman, for that yeoman's duty there. And I would like to thank all of you for coming here today and remind you the next meeting of the Texas Board of Criminal Justice will be Friday, August 26, 2022 in Galveston, Texas. The board will now conduct executive session, which is closed to the public in accordance with the Texas Government Code, section 551.074. The 223rd meeting of the board is now recessed. It is 10:58.